Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. And I guess we're just going to talk about the presidential race for the next 21 days. Um, but uh, a few things happened yesterday. I guess it was just yesterday. I don't know. I can't. I'm losing the timeline. But today on the View, they talked about a couple of events. One was Harris on Charlemagne the God's podcast. I didn't realize that he was on the Breakfast Club. I thought he had something. And Trump was in Chicago at some economic event with an interview led by the guy who runs Bloomberg. And we'll talk about that one first because it's kind of hilarious. It there was several moments where the audience was laughing at Trump and his proposals. He clearly doesn't understand tariffs. He keeps talking about, um, if you make the tariff high enough, the manufacturers will just move to the United States so it's cheaper to make their product. No, the manufacturer doesn't pay the tariff. The importer does, and then the importer passes the tariff expense on to the consumer. So either, um, you know, the consumer just gets used to paying more for whatever they're buying, or they'll buy less of it, which means that reduces the market, which means there's less interest in coming over to the United States to build it or to make it, because you've lost your market for because you made it too expensive. Um, and that process, if that's his intent, um, takes at least a decade. And if that product is still selling well, then the consumers have gotten used to that it costing that amount of money, and then it's the price isn't going to go down. They may come to the United States to build it, but then that just increases their profit because they're just going to charge the same amount. So it doesn't work. Tariffs work when you've got an existing manufacturing base in the United States and you want to keep those products cheaper than the products coming in from other countries. The problem is we've already shipped all the manufacturing out. So you have to actually invest in the manufacturing first here, get the products made here, before that tariff is actually going to be helpful. Um, just the whole thing is ridiculous. And in the short term, it makes all of the expenses for everyday Americans go up. I wish they'd talk about that more. If you're worried about how much things cost, Trump's economy is going to be worse for you because that's the thing that people say when they don't want to admit to um, their racism. They're like, oh, they think he'll be better on the economy. He won't. Um, anyway, um, so and there were a couple of times where he just said uh, to the interviewer, he would ramble and do his weave and it's all this stupid bullshit, which is not it's not weaving, it's just rambling. Um, and the interviewer kept interrupting him. He's like, "But that's not what we're talking about." Um, and it was kind of comical because and Trump was getting mad. But it's it, I just don't think his supporters actually listen. I don't think they care what he has to say because it's not really about him or what he says, or it's just how they make him feel, which is good about being racist. Um, and to contrast that, she went on the Charlemagne the God podcast and a radio show, and they showed the clip about her record, which I think is really important that she address that because that is a huge perception, specifically within the Black community, that she um, just roughshod was imprisoning Black men in California, and she it is. I mean, the record's not great for the amount of Black men she did prosecute in California, but I think it's important for her to state, no, 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 no. I wasn't putting people away for weed, and the thing that they didn't mention on this show that I think is it was one of the most important things that she said on that topic was that she supports um, legalizing marijuana federally, and I think that is probably considered, you know, way too liberal for all of those right wing evangelical bullshit hypocrites. Um, but I think that would go a long way with the young white male vote too. um, so it's just the whole thing to me is fascinating. And I think I think again it's a win for her. It's a loss for him. She's going to go on Fox and uh, and Brett Baer. The last time there was an interview with Trump and Brett Baer, Baer kind of hammered him on um, elections, on climate, on economy. Baer's not a Trump fan, so it's hard to admit or it's hard to recognize that there might be someone on the Fox News team that isn't a complete sycophant, but he's not. So I think, and this is good. I think there should be challenging questions. She'll answer them. He gets challenged and he gets angry, or just stops talking altogether and just plays music, or leaves the stage. He's done that too. Um, One of the things that he did, and I think this might have been at the same rally where he stopped taking questions, is he said about people going out and voting on January 5th. And people are like, ha ha ha, he doesn't know what day the voting is. And yeah, his supporters should go out and vote on January 5th. And I get where it's funny, but I don't think that's a mistake in his head. Because to him, the election isn't about November 5th. Um, it is about January 5th, because January 5th is the certification in Congress. It was January 6th 4 years ago. It's January 5th this year. It's not always the same day. Just like voting day is not always the same day. And I think for him, because that is where he knows that's his last stand and where he's planning to try it again. Um, and to the point that they were all trying to make today around the table at the View about it's not just the election, it's the weeks following. It's not even just the weeks following, it's election night. Um, Pennsylvania is notoriously slow at counting, so they're not going to come up with results or I think even projections on election night. Georgia just yesterday a judge overturned the rule that they had to hand count the ballots in addition to the machine count before they would release data. So, because that's an attempt to slow down the results being um, committed and communicated so that Trump can just declare victory on the night. And it's going to take unless it's a monstrous decisive victory, he's going to declare a victory on election night. And she's going to have to, like, everybody in media is going to have to be like, well, he didn't win yet. We don't know. But he's going to tell his supporters that he won. And then whenever it happens, the next day or a couple of days later, when we actually have a definitive answer about who is the likely winner, um, and if then at that point it becomes actually Kamala won, then all of his supporters are going to be like, no, you just stole the election. That's going to be a tough fucking week, unless night of it is so decisive. Um, I'm heartened by all of the turnout in early voting for Georgia. Um, Apparently, they're reporting that President Jimmy Carter got to vote for Kamala Harris, which is great. Uh, Good for him. I'd like to see him hold on until the election results are official. Um, I doubt he'll show up at the inauguration, but um, and I'm heartened to see all of this talk from Michigan about um, support for Harris in predominantly red areas on the west side of the state. The biggest concern to me in Michigan is that whole sort of the Palestinian protest vote. I wonder if the Palestinians in Michigan realize that although I realize very angry at what's happening right now and the U.S. lack of attention to it. Although we did just step up and say, hey, Israel, they just got threatened. If you're not getting aid back into Palestine and into Gaza, we are going to start cutting off your arms. So at least there's movement in the right direction in that sense. But I just wonder if the Palestinians in Michigan, who I guess now they're throwing in for Jill Stein, which is ridiculous, as is David Duke, because that's what you want to do. You want to vote for the same guy as the Klan leader. Um, but if you don't vote for Harris and allow Trump to get in, he's likely going to send you to Palestine. He's going to root you out of Michigan and send you to Palestine. But he's definitely going to give Netanyahu the blank check to just level Gaza and Palestine until there are no Palestinians left. Like, so I get you're angry, but you can vote for someone that you can negotiate with and implore toward, or you can fuck yourself and all of your brethren over because Trump is going to let y'all die, including the ones that live here, because he doesn't want you here. Um, I wish that message would be made more clear to them because protest vote. I get the anger, but you're going to make it worse for yourself and everyone in Palestine. Um, so on that happy note, I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to talk about. I've got stuff to do.